Freedom is not merely casting off one's chains, but living in a way that respects and promotes the freedom of others. To be free is not only to cast off one's chains, but to live respecting and promoting the freedom of others. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world and shape the future of humanity. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it through conscious and moral action. After climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. It always seems impossible until it is done through perseverance and collective determination. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. There is no passion to be found playing small in settling for a life that is less than you are capable of living. When a man is denied the right to live the life he believes in, he has no choice but to become an outlaw.
True reconciliation does not consist in merely forgetting the past, but in confronting and learning from it. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. A good leader can engage in a debate frankly and thoroughly, knowing that at the end, a decision must be made. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived, but what difference we have made to the lives of others. Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity. It is an act of justice and moral responsibility. Real leaders must be ready to sacrifice all for the freedom of their people. Freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to resolve conflict through peaceful means. A society that fails to care for its weakest members cannot call itself truly free.
A leader must sometimes walk behind the people, allowing them to believe they are leading themselves. Freedom is meaningless if it does not include the freedom to make mistakes and learn from them. True democracy requires patience, dialogue, and the courage to listen to opposing voices. There can be no deeper revelation of a society's soul than the way it treats its children. A free society cannot exist where fear controls speech, thought, and human dignity. Reconciliation is not pretending the past never happened, but ensuring it never happens again. Real peace demands far more than the absence of violence. It demands justice and equality. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred himself. Long walks toward freedom are sustained not by anger, but by hope and moral conviction. Justice delayed is not justice denied, but it tests the endurance of human dignity.
Equality is not a gift given by the powerful, but a right claimed by the conscious. Without forgiveness, cycles of oppression and revenge will endlessly reproduce themselves. Leadership is measured not by authority, but by responsibility toward the most vulnerable. A nation cannot heal while it denies the suffering written into its own history. Freedom loses its meaning when it is enjoyed by some and denied to others. Education builds bridges where ignorance once built walls between human beings. The true test of conscience is whether one defends justice even when it is unpopular. Oppression thrives not only on cruelty, but on the silence of the decent. A society that divides people by race or class imprisons its own future. True strength is shown when power chooses restraint over domination.
Liberation is incomplete if it replaces one form of injustice with another. Hope is a discipline that must be practiced even in the darkest moments. No democracy survives without citizens willing to defend truth and accountability. Freedom is a collective achievement, never the accomplishment of one individual alone. A divided society may function temporarily, but it cannot endure morally. True reconciliation demands honesty, courage, and the willingness to confront painful truths. Justice must be built patiently, otherwise it collapses under the weight of resentment. A people who understand their dignity cannot be ruled forever by fear. Political freedom is hollow if it is not matched by economic and social dignity. The struggle for justice is not a sprint, but a lifelong moral commitment.
Hatred corrodes the soul of the oppressed as deeply as it empowers the oppressor. True leadership listens before it commands and unites before it rules. A nation's greatness lies in its capacity to correct its own injustices. Freedom achieved without dignity is merely another form of silent captivity. Human rights are not privileges granted by the state, but inherent to every person. Courage grows when individuals refuse to surrender their conscience to authority. Justice becomes real only when ordinary people believe they deserve it. Freedom demands vigilance because it is always vulnerable to complacency. A peaceful future is impossible without confronting inequality in the present. Moral authority is stronger than political power when rooted in justice.
Democracy requires not perfection, but continuous commitment to improvement. True equality means recognizing shared humanity beyond imposed divisions. Freedom without compassion risks becoming another instrument of domination. The measure of progress is how much suffering a society chooses to reduce. History moves forward when conscience becomes stronger than fear. True liberation begins when people reclaim belief in their own worth. Justice must speak in the language of humanity, not vengeance. A society that forgets its past injustices risks repeating them unconsciously. Freedom flourishes when responsibility is shared, not avoided. The greatest legacy of struggle is a future where dignity becomes normal.